The Blue Jays battled the Diamondbacks. First of three took place on June 17th, 2025. How did it all pan out? Welcome to episode 17 of season 4 of Sports for Beginners. A Blue Jays double trouble kickoff to a great Blue Jays double trouble of game recaps in series format. Diamondbacks, Blue Jays, next. The Blue Jays are back, and right now, with the game having gone final, we are welcoming you in to Blue Jays Game Recap on the Sports for Beginners podcast. Now, let's go to your hosts of Blue Jays Game Recap, Thomas McGregor, Ali Musa, and Scott McGregor in the Sports for Beginners podcast studio. Take it away, gentlemen, because when the umpire says, "You're out," or "That's the game," or "Let's play ball," we know it's time for some baseball. This is Blue Jays Game Recap. Take it away, gentlemen. Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, to episode 17 of season 4 of the podcast. I hope that we were able to have our friend Thomas join us for this recap, but we're riding solo today. As we were riding solo for the White Sox recap, we should probably have Thomas on our program for the program when we talk about the New York Yankees and the Los Angeles Angels. It will be a double trouble of episodes, so we should have Thomas for both of those. If we have him for one, that's fine too. My name is Scott McGregor. I am the founder and host of the program, Sports for Beginners. This is episode 17 of season number 4. And it's a Blue Jay program, Blue Jays and the Diamondbacks. The topic of conversation in the previous conversation, I should say, was the White Sox, but that was a series that took place following this series. So one has to wonder, as we start into the lead off of this show, or as I like to call it, leading off on our show, we go back to the days of the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays ahead of their series, and we drive things back all the way back to before these teams did battle. We gotta go all the way back to Sunday because the series didn't begin until Tuesday to find out where these teams' records stand, or I should say stood, right at the beginning of the series. At the beginning of the series, the Blue Jays were 38 and 33, and the Diamondbacks were 36 and 35. It did not end that way for the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays, however, but the Blue Jays pick up the opening win in the first 2 games of this series, I should say. They pick up the opening victories in games 1 and 2 in the Work From Dome game, which was on Thursday, June 19th, 2025. The Diamondbacks picking up the W, but let's not jump too far ahead. In the leadoff, we like to talk about things slow and steady, but due to time constraints, we are not going to worry too much about who started in what game for each team. But we are going to get into the managers, as we always like to do. On a season episode of Blue Jays Game Recap, we may not always get to the pitching line, or as I would like to call it if we were setting up a pitching matchup for the next series for the Blue Jays or the Diamondbacks. We always focus on the Blue Jays, but sometimes we might focus on the opposing team, in this case the Diamondbacks. Our managers, first for the Toronto Blue Jays, who come home for a 6-game homestand that features the Diamondbacks and the White Sox, each for 3 games. Chicago 3 games on the weekend. The Diamondbacks 3 games on the week. Blue Jays took 2 of those 3 games against the Diamondbacks, but they fell in game number 3 to the Diamondbacks, and we will get to those finals in just a matter of moments. The managers, however, as we like to start off, are John Schneider, he manages, I should say, the Toronto Blue Jays. He is opposed by the manager of the Arizona Diamondbacks, Torrey Louvlo. Torrey, if I pronounce the last name wrong, sincerest apologies in advance. Same thing for pitching matchups and, of course, players in the game. If I pronounce anybody's name wrong, I sincerely apologize on that front. But with that said, we do still have a little bit of time here, so you know what? Why not go to the meeting on the mound? But here's what we're going to do. We're going to go game by game, both in meeting on the mound, line score, and game itself. We may not get to the game itself in the opening portion of this show, but we will get there and get to the starters for games 2 and 3 as we move along. But here in game 1 are your starters, and we'll go to our line score. It would be the Hound on the mound, Chris Bassett, getting the go for the Blue Jays. He was dealing in that game. He would go against Brandon P. I'll go with Brandon P. in case I pronounced the name wrong. That was your starting pitching matchup. Starting lineups managed by Torrey L. and, of course, John Schneider. But let's get to the line score, as this would bring the records from 36 and 35 and 38 and 33 to 36 and 36 for the Diamondbacks and 39 and 33 for the Blue Jays. Your line score for the Blue Jays, 5 runs on 9 hits, 1 error in the game. For the Diamondbacks, 4 runs on 8 hits, no errors. They left 10 men on base, totaled 11 bases in the game. Both teams with no stolen bases. The Blue Jays left 8 men on base, totaled 21 bases in this game, and 3 of the 9 hits they had were home runs. Let's jump to the game itself, picking it up right in the get-go of the beginning of the game. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. kicking things off with a double, his 14th of the season, to old friend Lourdes Gurriel Jr., the left fielder at the time. That goes into left field. Addison Barger scores on the play. 1-0 Toronto after 1 inning of play. Fast forward past the 2nd inning of play. We go to inning number 3, bottom of the inning. To dead left center field, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. strikes again. Placata, this time, his 9th home run of the season, gives the Blue Jays a 2-0 advantage. So the Blue Jays score on an Addison Barger score from a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. double. Now Vladdy has hit the game's first home run of the game and first home run for Toronto. To the bottom of the 4th we go, and then off to the top, to the top of the 4th we go, then the top of the 5th, where Pavin Smith puts the Diamondbacks on the board with a single to score Josh Naylor. Eugenio Suarez to third base on the play. In the top of the 5th, Ketel Marte picks up a single of his own, scores Corbin Carroll. Ketel Marte advancing to second base on the throwing error by right fielder Addison Barger at the time. Later in the inning, Will Robinson, I believe he was okay, but I think he left this game on Josh Naylor's 10th double of the season. But it should be noted, Naylor went over to check on Will Robinson after the crash into the wall, it looks like. Anyways, Ketel Marte scores, and so after Ketel Marte ties the game up at 2 runs apiece, 2-2, Josh Naylor's double, his 17th double of the season, scores Ketel Marte. That makes it 3-2 Arizona. But it should be noted, Josh went over to check on Will Robinson amongst the chaos that was going down in this ball game. Fast forward through the top of the 6th, bottom of the 5th, bottom of the 6th, we go to top 7. In the top of the 7, Eugenio Suarez singles on a line drive to Alan Roden, the center fielder at this time. Ketel Marte scores on the play. Geraldo Perdomo goes to second on this play. He doesn't go home. He heads to second on this play. So only 1 run would score. This puts the Blue Jays down a pair, 4-2 Arizona. But in the bottom of the 7th and then bottom of the 9th, we'll get to the bottom of the 9th in a second, but in the bottom of the 7th inning, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. puts bat on ball and scores Bo Bichette on a ground ball to guess who? Old friend Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Now the Blue Jays are within 1, but they can't get anything done in the bottom of the 8th inning. In the bottom of the 9th, however, after a Davis Schneider strikeout, there is only 1 out in the ball game in the bottom of the 9th. But what happens later? I'll tell you what happened later. Back-to-back jacks. First off the bat of Bo Bichette, his 9th home run of the season, which ties this game at 4 runs apiece. We're tied again? Wait. One more play to do. It's Addison Barger. 8th home run of the season for Addison. It was his 3rd career major league walk-off in his career, walk-off home run in his major league career, his 3rd career walk-off homer, which gave the Blue Jays a 5-4 walk-off win. And again, to add to that, that was Addison's 8th home run of the season, and that is what led us to the game itself. And Will Robinson, it was actually Myles Straw who was injured in the game, was injured on this point, but this was after Jonathan Clase was hit by a pitch and later removed from the game. Myles Straw came into the game to play center field and was injured on the play that Josh Naylor doubled on, which also scored a run. And it's just the kind of guy Josh Naylor is. He went out there to check on his injured friend in Myles Straw, so he and Myles Straw are friends. Also, some more coverage from that. Blue Jays placed Bowden Francis during the series. They had placed Bowden Francis on the 15-day. Well, actually, not really 15-day. They placed him on the IL, and they also DFA'd Eric Swanson in pitching shakeup. All right, so that's game 1. Still lots more to get to, including game 2. But quickly here, I'll get to the matchup on the mound before we go any further and take a quick commercial break after that. Now, this was a game that the Blue Jays won, I guess you could say, in hand. Eric Lauer went for the Blue Jays against Eduardo Rodriguez. Both pitchers pick up a win and a loss, but we will get to that on the other side after we go over the line score, which will kickstart the next segment of our show. Before we take the break, after we take this break, which we're going to do in just a few seconds, we will get to game 3 following the next break. And before we get to game 3's break, before we break down the scoring, we will get into the pitchers in game number 3, as well as the line score, should we get in time. I think we should, but we'll see. Of course, we also have the pitching line coming up next as well. And we have players of the series on the way as well on this program. So stick around. Episode 17 of Sports for Beginners Season 4 will continue in a matter of moments. We've broken down one game of the Diamondback series. The records, these are not the current records of the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays, but they were the records coming out of game number 1 of the series. Diamondbacks were 36-36. The Blue Jays 39-33. What were the records heading into game 3? Find out next. Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Take another look with Gerda Felix and Melanie Taddeo Malo, two powerful women of diverse backgrounds having genuine, unique, and uncomfortable conversations that everyone needs to have. Join Melanie and Gerda for conversations about what is missing from human connections.
CNT Radio will never give you up. They will never let you down. Nor will they run around or desert you. So join Nick Astley for The Melting Pot every Saturday on CNT Radio. Hang on a minute. He's not Nick Astley. Oh, jings, I've done it wrong. Anyway, just join Nick for The Melting Pot on CNT Radio.
Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Thank you, Ali. Thank you so much for your contributions to our program on Sports for Beginners, and thank you so much to Thomas for his contributions to our program when it comes to welcoming us back and, of course, taking us onto a commercial break. With that said, let's get to game 2. I kind of like what we've been doing so far, and we might try this again for the next recap that we do, if we're doing it after the series is over. But we're talking about the Diamondbacks and the Blue Jays on episode 17 of season number 4 of Sports for Beginners. It's a Blue Jays game recap double trouble, and there was some very important news to bring out as this game finaled. Of course, this was game 2 of the series. The final scores are 5-4 Blue Jays on Tuesday, June 17th, 2025. That was a Blue Jays victory walk-off style. On Wednesday night, Max Scherzer was in action with the Buffalo Bisons. And we'll get to his news in a moment. But the final score of that game, Diamondbacks and Blue Jays, was Blue Jays 8, Diamondbacks 1. The Diamondbacks do take 1 out of the 3 games this series. 5 was the final of the last game, which was on the Work from Dome game. And on the plus side, let's get back to game 2, the 8-1 final. But I do want to break out the Max Scherzer note that he put on a show on that day with 8 strikeouts in potential final rehab outing with the Buffalo Bisons. Now, we do know that that is indeed official because Max Scherzer will return when the Blue Jays begin a series with Cleveland, but it has been confirmed that he will start game 2 of that series instead of game 1, which makes me beg the question, when is the starter who started in game 2 of the Diamondback series going to start? Well, he is going to start the first game of that series. More on that a little bit later after we're done with the breakdowns. Speaking of, let's not waste more time. Let's get right into it. Eric Lauer versus Eduardo Rodriguez. Let's take you into the game. The line score, before we get to the team comparison, which adds on more. For the Diamondbacks, 1 run on 6 hits, 1 error in the game. For the Blue Jays, 8 runs on 13 hits, no errors. In this game, no stolen bases for either squad. The Blue Jays left 11 men on base in game number 2 of this series. The Diamondbacks left at least 7 men on base. They totaled 8 men in total bases. They did not have a home run out of their 6 hits that they had in this game. The Blue Jays in 13 hits, one of those 13 was a home run, and that was what scored one of the 8 runs the Blue Jays had. They also totaled 20 base runners despite leaving 11 on base. Let us jump in, shall we? Here we go. It began with a bang in the bottom of the first inning for the Blue Jays, as once again. Now, in game 1, first of all, in game 1, it was a double that scored the game's first run. Game 2, different story. Bo Bichette hit a home run in Tuesday night's contest in the bottom of the 9th. Who's to say I can't lead off the game with a home run? That's his 10th home run of the season. 1-0 Jays. Bottom third we go into the as we were in scoring, and I was under key moments for that one. But anyways, let's go. Bottom third. And this is interesting. This is an interesting way to score a run. George Springer is able to load the bases, or rather keep them loaded, thanks to catcher's interference by Diamondbacks catcher Jose Herrera. As a result, Tyler Heidemann scores on the play, makes it 2-0 Toronto over Arizona. Addison Barger moving from second base to third base. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. moving from first base to second base. And George Springer heading to first base on the catcher's interference call. The Diamondbacks would get 1 back, but the Blue Jays scored 3 in the bottom of the 6th. In the top of the 6th, however, how did they get the 1 run they got? They got it courtesy of a Lourdes Gurriel Jr. ground out to Ernie Clement. Corbin Carroll scores on the play. Ernie Clement was the third baseman at the time. He goes over to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. for the out to get Lourdes, but Corbin Carroll scores. It's 2-1 Toronto over the Diamondbacks. It would not stay that way, however. Bottom of the 6th, Addison Barger, 16th double of the year for him, scores Alan Rodin, and Bo Bichette moving to third base on the play. Bo would score, along with Addison, on a double of Vladimir Guerrero Jr.'s own in the same inning. His 15th double of the season to Tim Taiwa, who makes the play at center field. Bo Bichette and Addison Barger score on the double by Vladdy. It's 5-1 Toronto. Bottom of the 7th we go. And a sac fly and a ground out. Score some runs. Tyler Heidemann out on a sacrifice fly. Scores Ernie Clement. Andres Jimenez would score on the Bo Bichette ground out. Alan Rodin to second base on that play. Jimenez would go to third on the Ernie Clement play that Ernie would score on, thanks to a sac fly by Tyler Heineman. Later in the inning, Alan Rodin scores on this play, but it's a Vladimir Guerrero Jr. single that scores him and sends Addison Barger to second base on the play. And the ground out by Bo was a softly ground ball, grounding out to the pitcher at the time, Ginkel. Kevin G, I will say. Some of the more interesting coverage here from the game includes X-rays were negative on Diamondbacks Corbin Carroll, who was hit by a pitch on the left hand, and they called it a pain tolerance type thing. Barrios' local charity work on El Dream Come True for Toronto. That was on the Blue Jays side. The Diamondback side was on Corbin Carroll, who was hurt in the game, but x-rays came back negative. So he should be okay to go. And our final score, once again, is 8-1. The last run scored came off the bat of Vladimir Guerrero Jr. single to score the game-sealing run. All right, so the Blue Jays won 8-1 Wednesday night. They won 5-4 in the ninth inning on Tuesday night, Looney Dogs night at the ballpark, by the way. But how did they not end up sweeping the Arizona Diamondbacks? The record, by the way, coming out of game number 2 was 36-37 for Arizona and 40-33 for Toronto. So that would be the record going into the finale on Thursday afternoon, where Ryan Nelson took on Kevin Gossman. That's another guy actually who will be pitching in the Guardian series. And if it stays the way it is, he will get the opportunity to close out that series following Scherzer's start on Wednesday and Eric Lauer's start on Tuesday. With that said, we'll get to how he did against the Diamondbacks and more in just a moment. But before we go away, since we have a little bit of time here, not a lot, but we have a little bit of time here. Before we go away for this portion of the show, this would eventually set up the records for Arizona and Toronto going in to their series with the Chicago White Sox for the Blue Jays and the Colorado Rockies for the Arizona Diamondbacks. Speaking of the White Sox, they opened up a series at home against the Arizona Diamondbacks following Sunday's game, which was yesterday, June 22nd, 2025. The last game of the Blue Jays White Sox series. We'll get to that in a mere moment from now. Players of the series and pitching line from the Diamondbacks series, I should say, still to come. But coming up next, Game 3 line score, Game 3 scoring, top performers and player of the game from each game, one starting with game number 3 and moving on into game number 2 and game number 1 of the series. All of that next. Then we'll get to players of the series plus pitching line. Which game are we going to go through? Find out in a break time. When we return, it's time to talk Game 3 between the D-backs and the Jays. This is episode 17 of Sports for Beginners Season 4, and it continues in just a moment.
Don't go anywhere. There's more great conversations and content right around the corner. Sports for Beginners will be right back in a moment. Looking for a sports podcast that covers sports weekly as well as gets you set up for the day? Check out Weekly in Sports with me, Scott McGregor. We give some shout-outs of the week to podcasts like this one and those who do them. Discuss the Blue Jays, Bills, Raptors, and more. To learn more, check out the Sports for Beginners Facebook page. Search Sports for Beginners.
I wonder if I could make it. It's almost getting to 8 o'clock p.m., and I am still a few more steps away from home to get to my computer to listen to CNT Radio's Cosmopolitan Culture Club. The best of the best music from around the world. Can't wait. think I made it. Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter, one song at a time. Now, let's take you back to the action. To the rink and field we go. We find Scott McGregor.
Welcome everyone back into Blue Jays game recap on episode 17 of season 4 of Sports for Beginners. 2 games in the books. We visited with the managers, and during each game recap, we visited with our starting pitchers. Reminder of who they are, especially for the one we are about to talk about. That's game number 3 of this series. Kevin Gausman for the Blue Jays and Ryan Nelson for the Diamondbacks. In game number 2, it was Eric Lauer versus Eduardo Rodriguez. It was Chris Bassett versus Brandon Thad. Hopefully I have that right. Apologies, Brandon, if I pronounced it wrong. All right, let's get to it. Starting off the same way we did going into game number 2 with the line score. For the Arizona Diamondbacks, 9 runs on 9 hits, 1 error in the game. For the Blue Jays, 5 runs on 6 hits, 1 error. I should say no errors for this one. 1 error for the Diamondbacks in game number 3. No errors for the Blue Jays in game number 3. They left 3 men on base, totaled 16 total bases, hit 3 home runs of their 6 hits and 5 runs. 2 home runs were 9 hits. 2 of those 9 hits were home runs for the Diamondbacks, which also ended up being runs. The Diamondbacks also stole 1 base. The Blue Jays, meanwhile, not able to steal a base in this game. Apologies there for the background noise. But they left 3 men on base, and the Diamondbacks leave 5 men on base. No errors for the Blue Jays, 1 error for the Diamondbacks. So how did this game end up being what it was in a final score, which also led to what the records would be going into those series between the White Sox and the Blue Jays, and of course the Diamondbacks and the Rockies. First of all, what were those records? Those records going in 36 and 37. It became 37 and 37 at the time. The Blue Jays record going in to game number 3, 40 and 33. 40 and 33. The record going out of the game, 40 and 34. Here's how it began. It began with a 2-run shot in the top of the 2nd inning, but the Blue Jays quickly answer in the bottom half of the game, 2nd inning. Eugenio Suarez with his 22nd home run of the season. That's number 22 of the season. A 2-run shot scores Josh Naylor. Arizona in the lead early. 2-zip. Arizona. Bottom of 2 we go. Alejandro Kirk says, if you think you can get away with 2 runs or even more, you got another thing coming. We are clear for takeoff. Alejandro Kirk sends a ball right into right dead center field for his 6th home run of the season. One of a pair of home runs he would have in the ball game. We'll get to number 2 in a second, which would be his 7th home run of the year. But back we go to Eugenio Suarez, who picked up a home run in the 2nd inning and a 2-run double in the top of the 3rd inning. His 14th double of the season, scored Ketel Marte and Pavin Smith. Now the word from John Schneider heading into the game on Wednesday night was Miles Straw. They were going to give him another day or so to be ready, but Class A was ready should they need him for Wednesday. They did not bring him in, I don't believe. I'll have to check the batting order again to make sure. But he was there ready to roll in case he was needed. Anyways, it is 4-1 Diamondbacks over the Blue Jays. That would go to 6-1 as another 2-run home run coming in. This one coming in top of the fifth. Pavin Smith with the home run. His 6th of the season. Fly ball into center field. Dead center field. Not right or left. Dead center field. Ketel Marte scores on the play. 6-1. Arizona is up now. Arizona up now by 5 runs. They would go up by 6 after old friend Randall Grichuk. Well, we get Grichuk out. Great. The bad news is Canadian Josh Naylor scores on the play, which makes it 7-1. Now the Blue Jays down by 6 runs. Heading into the 6th inning we go, which is where we will go. Ketel Marte, his 7th double of the season, scores Jose Herrera. Geraldo Pedrome to third base on the play. 8-1 Diamondbacks here in the 6th inning. They would only get 2 runs in the 6th inning. The second of 2 runs is a sacrifice fly from Pavin Smith, which scored Geraldo Pedrome and also got Ketel Marte to third on the play. It is 9-1. It is an 8-run lead for the Diamondbacks. But Alejandro Kirk had a solo shot in the 2nd inning. Followed that up a few innings later with a solo shot in the bottom of the 7th inning to get the Blue Jays back within 7 runs of the Arizona 8-run lead, which was 9-1. It is now 9-2. Let's go bottom 8. Lights up. Let's go Blue Jays. We need runs and we need them now. Well, Jonathan Clase says, if Alejandro Kirk is going to hit a home run, so will I. That is his first home run at Rogers Center, but 2nd of his campaign as a Blue Jay. And this one is in dead right field. It's now 9-3. Solo shot off the bat of Jonathan Clase. That is followed up by a Vladimir Guerrero Jr., his 10th double of the season, on a line drive to old friend Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Addison Barger scores on the play. Vladdy goes to third, but he does advance to third on the throwing error by Lourdes Gurriel Jr. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. would then score on Alejandro Kirk's single in the game later on in the 8th inning to get the Blue Jays 5 runs within the lead. Just to double check the math here, the final score was 9-5. Is that indeed 5 runs? No, that was actually 4 runs, I should say. Excuse me. They were down 4 runs as Guerrero Jr. scores on the Kirk single in the last moments of the 8th inning. But, well, let's just say yes, the Blue Jays were motivated by chance to seize the AL East crown. It's right there. Well, guess what? The series with the White Sox didn't quite go the way the Blue Jays would have hoped, even though the second game, in the first and third game, they absolutely were not playing well at all. But they did get 1 run in Game 1, and they managed to grab 2 in Game 3. They score a touchdown in Game 2, and the White Sox pick up a run in game number 2. They pick up 7 in Game 1. And they picked up 4 in game number 3. All right. So there you have it. 9-5, your final score of Thursday afternoon game. That was a work from dome game. And it was quite the game, to be honest. But with that being said, let's jump to the top performers and players of the game. Players of the series coming up momentarily, but we also want to get to the pitching line. Let's start in game number 3. The player of the game also happened to be a top performer of the game, and that was Eugenio Suarez, who went 3 for 4 with a home run, a double, 4 RBIs, a strikeout, and a run scored. He went 3 for 5. Pitcher Ryan Nelson, he went 5 2/3, gave up 1 hit, 1 earned run, and struck out 4 Blue Jays. Speaking of Blue Jays, the Blue Jays' top performer in game number 3, which was a 9-5 loss to the Diamondbacks, was Alejandro Kirk, 3 for 4, 2 home runs, 3 RBIs, and 2 runs scored in the 9-5 loss. In the 8-1 win over the Diamondbacks, the player of the game was Vladimir Guerrero Jr., 2 for 2. Top performers were Eric Lauer, 5 innings pitched, 4 hits given up, an earned run given up. He struck out 8 Diamondbacks. Moving on, we go to the 3 for 5 Bo Bichette. Home run, 2 RBIs, and 2 runs scored. And last but certainly not least in game 2, Addison Barger for 4 with 2 doubles, a walk, an RBI, and a run scored. Game 1, the game on Looney Dogs night. Another guy that went 2 for 5 and ended up as a top performer, Bo Bichette. Home run, double, RBI, and 2 runs scored. 3 for 4 was Vladimir Guerrero Jr. with, a home run, a double, 3 RBIs, and a run scored. Chris Bassett fanned 5 Diamondbacks. There you have it, your players of the game and top performers of the game. Pitching line, players of the series, and the closing moments of our show coming up after this word from Broadcast Map and our good friends over at Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time. And before we go to the break, I want to let everyone know the champions have been determined. Congratulations to the Oklahoma City Thunder on becoming the 2025 NBA champions. And I'm not a Florida Panthers fan. I am a Canadian hockey fan. But join Thomas on an episode of On the Ice and Behind the Benches as he recaps back-to-back champion PWHL Minnesota. They are now known as Minnesota Frost. Check into that show as he talks about the 2-time PWHL Walter Cup champion Minnesota Frost and now the 2-time Stanley Cup champions, the Florida Panthers. Congratulations to the Florida Panthers and congratulations to the Minnesota Frost. All of that and more on the Ice and Behind the Benches can be found there. As for us, we'll be back in a matter of moments with the pitching line from the close game, game number 1 of the Diamondbacks series. We will be back with the pitching line, players of the series, and closing up the shop right after this from Broadcast Map and Sienna T Radio, making your day brighter one song at a time.
Looking for conversations on the world of broadcasting, sports media, and from time to time, my favorite sports teams? Listen to Broadcast Map with me, Ali Musa. To learn more about the show and to view the upcoming schedule, like the Broadcast Map Facebook page. Search Broadcast Map.
Looking for conversations on books and more, as well as tutorials on using your favorite devices and applications? You've come to the right place. Join us weekly on Spicy Techie, where Ali and Sienna provide insightful conversations, as well as useful tips and tricks to help you along on your technological journey. To learn more, tune into the show and like the Spicy Techie Facebook page. Search for Spicy Techie.
Welcome back into Blue Jays game recaps season edition, I should say, of the show on Sports for Beginners, a Blue Jays game recap episode on episode 17 of season 4 of the podcast. Time now for players of the series. Before we get to players of the series, let's talk about Game 1's pitching line, where the Blue Jays started 38 and 33, moved up to 39 and 33, and meanwhile, the Diamondbacks were at 500 after starting this series 36 and 35. They moved to 36 and 36 with the result of a 5-4 loss. Let's go by team and start with Toronto. Toronto didn't use too many players in this series, I should say in this game, in game 1, but they did use Chris Bassett, who was the starter. He went 6 innings, gave up 6 hits, 3 earned runs, fanned 5 Arizona Diamondbacks, finishes the game with a ERA of 3.75, walked only 1 batter in the game, did not give up a home run. Brandon Little pitched half of the 7th inning, going 2/3, allowing 1 earned run, walking 2 batters, and striking out only 1. Arizona Diamondback, his record 2.20 coming out of the game. Braden Fisher picking up the end out, which was after a walk. No, never mind, that wasn't a walk. It was a 1-hit allow, but they were able to get out of the inning. His ERA 2.70 coming out of the game. Mason Fluharte would pitch the entire 8th inning and get out of the inning with a hit given up, a batter walked by Mason Fluharte, and a strikeout given from Mason Fluharte to a Diamondbacks player. ERA coming out of the game, 3 point, walks 1 batter that he faces in the 9th inning, but the defense gets the job done for him, and he picks up the win. Number 6 of the season for Jeff Hoffman. His record is now 6-2. The record for the pitcher that was deemed with a loss is 3-2. We'll get to his name in a moment. But a walked batter by Jeff Hoffman. The defense for the Blue Jays gets it done. ERA for Hoffman, 5.52. Altogether, the Blue Jay pitchers strike out 7 Diamondbacks hitters in the ball game in game 1. Let's go to the Diamondback side of things. They start with their starter, Brandon P., who goes 5 innings, gives up 4 hits, 2 earned runs, walked 1 Toronto Blue Jays batter, but struck out 3. 2 of those earned runs coming in off of a home run given up by Brandon P. He goes for an ERA of 5.8. No ERA for the second man to get out there, who went the entire 6th inning, and that was Kyle Backus. Kyle Backus with the 1 inning of work. Struck out a Blue Jays batter, but that was all he got. No ERA resulted. The 7th inning worked by 2 pitchers, including this man, who would come in after Kyle Backus, Jalen Beeks. He comes in, goes 2/3 of that 7th inning, giving up 1 earned run and 1 hit, an ERA of 3.15 to end the day. Next up, we go to Thompson. We go to Ryan Thompson. Ryan Thompson finishes off the inning, but he gives up 1 hit before he finishes off that 7th inning. ERA 5.33 coming out of the game. And then we get next up to pitch. This guy went the 8th inning, and they almost got into the 9th inning. They almost got through the 9th inning, but again, the walk-off from Addison Barger took things down. But Juan Moriello, he goes through the 8th inning, gives up 1 hit, strikes out 3 Blue Jay pitchers, ends the day with an ERA 4.66. And next up, it is Miller's turn. It is time for Shelby Miller to go to work. And he does, but he only goes a third of that ninth inning, giving up 2 earned runs, 2 hits, 2 home runs, and he only struck out 1 Blue Jays player. His ERA at the end of the game is quite surprising. It's 2.17 coming out of the game. So there you have it. There is your pitching line from game number 1, the 5-4 walk-off victory for the Blue Jays. They made the Blue Jays sweat in game number 3. Let's be real here. However, the Blue Jays did not need to sweat it, the small stuff, I should say, for game number 2, as they were able to pick up the dub easily. Well, okay, maybe not too easily. They did not end up shutting out the Diamondbacks in game 2. But you get my picture. But I think you get the picture. It's going to be interesting to see what happens when Max Scherzer returns to the Blue Jays pitching rotation. That is going to happen Wednesday night when the Blue Jays battle the Guardians, who they will be getting ready to do battle with on Tuesday night. Meanwhile, the Diamondbacks and the White Sox are in a 3-game series against one another on Barbie Game Day at the White Sox. The Blue Jays are going to begin a series with the Cleveland Guardians starting tomorrow, and one of the notable starters Wednesday night is Max Scherzer. He will be getting the go-ahead here for the Blue Jays in game number 2. Kevin Gausman will have game number 3, and the start of game 1 will go to Eric Lauer. We will see if that changes. One thing we know for sure, the Cleveland Guardians record is nowhere near 500 where it was on Sunday, June 15th. Which makes me wonder, as we really start to wrap things up here, we've had a couple of interesting check-ins here where we've had to close the door and reopen it again. Apologies for that. They will go with Logan Allen on Tuesday night. The Blue Jays will see Gavin Williams on Wednesday night as probable. These are the probables, by the way. And Thursday afternoon, that's a 1:10 p.m. Eastern start. It will be Kevin Gausman versus this man right here, Tanner Bibee against Kevin Gausman on Thursday. We get Max Scherzer and Gavin Williams on Wednesday night, and tomorrow night, or tonight, whenever you're tuning into this show, probably tonight, you'll get Eric Lauer versus Logan Allen, weather permitting. Alright, ladies and gentlemen, our current record for Toronto is, as of Monday, June 23rd, 2025, when they go into the series with the Guardians, 41-36. The record for the Diamondbacks going into today's game against the White Sox, as we sit here, 39-38 going into today's game, which is underway as we speak. What will it be going out of that series? We don't know. Next up for the Diamondbacks following that series, which is currently underway. Following the Blue Jays series, it was a series in Colorado, which they took 2 out of 3, slaughtering the Rockies 14-8 on Friday night, June 20th, 2025. Things were a little bit respectable on the weekend. They lost 4-2 to the Rockies on Sunday, beat the Rockies 5-3 on Saturday, and now they currently are manhandling the White Sox as we speak, 8-0. In the bottom of the 6th inning. That series continues tomorrow and wraps up Wednesday. Then they'll begin a homestand that goes into July, including a 3-game set with the Miami Marlins and Pride Night, which will kick things off this coming Friday, June 27th, 2025. They will see the Giants at the end of June on Monday, June 3rd, 2025, and open up a 3-game set with a 4-game set, I should say, with the Giants that will end on July 3rd before the Royals come into town for some 4th of July home madness with some post-game fireworks set up on the 4th of July. Then it's time for a patriotic tea on Saturday. Not much going on Sunday, when the Royals are in town in Arizona. All right, so that's so far what's coming up for Arizona. What's coming up for the Blue Jays? Well, they're going to start a homestand on June 30th as well. But didn't they just end a 6-game homestand? Yes, they did. But this is the last homestand of the first half of the season. How does it begin? Well, first we got to go through a 6-game road trip with the Guardians hosting the Blue Jays for 3 beginning tomorrow night or tonight. When if you're checking this out on a Tuesday, maybe you are, maybe you're not. Series begins Tuesday and wraps up Thursday between the Guardians and the Blue Jays. Red Sox will host the Blue Jays on the weekend. We will be covering that game by game as much as we can. Shows will release ahead of the Yankees series, or in this case we will release them, most likely we'll release the first 2 games that we recap of that series either on the day they are recorded. The Saturday day we might do 2 releases, but we'll definitely do a Sunday release following the Red Sox game on Sunday. Back to covering series when the Blue Jays return home, as the Yankees are here for 4 to kick off a 7-game homestand, including Canada Day on July 1st. That's Tuesday. Then the Angels are here for 3, including City Connect Fridays and Junior J Sunday. Shows will be coming your way for the Angels and the Yankees all-complete series. The all-complete series, that is, on Monday, July the 7th, 2025. Hopefully before first pitch between the White Sox and the Blue Jays in Chicago. And how about some night owl action? One of our upcoming Blue Jay game recaps that will go down into the All-Star break, when Sports for Beginners will actually be taking a brief hiatus for the Midsummer Classic. We will cover the Athletics series game by game. How about some late night owl action? Join us Saturday and Sunday for recaps of the Athletics and the Blue Jays from wherever they're playing, because we can't call them the Oakland Athletics anymore. We don't necessarily yet have the rights to call them the Sacramento Athletics, but we will have a name, I'm sure, in due time. Anyways, ladies and gentlemen, that is the schedule leading up to the All-Star break, including the upcoming road trip that starts tomorrow night. And that will do it for this episode of Sports for Beginners, the podcast. Who knows, maybe Thomas will put a little on the ice and behind the benches. We don't know. We'll see. But when you can hear me next, after Game 1 of the Red Sox versus the Blue Jays. Then, after Game 2. Except with that said, barring the interruptions we had there, the slight interruptions we had there, thank you so much for joining us here. If you enjoyed what you've been listening to, please feel free, please feel free to like, comment, and subscribe to the podcast on YouTube under Weekly in Sports with Scott. We are also available on YouTube, on Spotify, Apple, or wherever you listen to your podcast. But as of right now, the Weekly in Sports podcast is only available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify, as well as Weekly in Sports with Scott, the YouTube channel specifically designed for Weekly in Sports content. We're also adding Sports for Beginners content, so we will see where that turns around. I also am hoping to get on the call with Ryan Talbot for episode 18 of season 4 to talk Bills. That ought to be a great conversation, because before you know it, school will be back in session, and not only that, the football players will be ready to hit the gridiron. We'll talk about that more in a separate bonus audio clip that won't be video and audio. It will just be audio following our conversation on Sports for Beginners with Ryan Talbot. Until then, Blue Jays fans, and until then, everyone, my name is Scott McGregor. Thank you so much for being with us. Lights up, let's go. We'll see you next time. Thank you so much for joining us on Sports for Beginners, the podcast, for Blue Jays game recap, the after show on Sports for Beginners, the podcast, right after every Blue Jays game. To learn more about upcoming episodes, when they drop,
and schedules, please visit https://sportsforbeginners0.wordpress.com. Follow the show on Facebook at facebook.com/sportsforbeginners87. Send us an email at sportsforbeginners87@gmail.com. Follow Ali, Thomas, and Scott on Twitter at Scott McGregor 3, Thomas J, and ALI Musa. Follow Thomas and Scott on Instagram at SMC_87_ and TM_80 and TM00_. Thanks for listening to Blue Jays Baseball, and we hope to see you soon again. This has been Blue Jays Game Recap. Once again, the website is https://sportsforbeginners0.wordpress.com. Thanks for listening. And when it's time for the Blue Jays to play ball, there's only one chant Blue Jays fans will be using. Catch you later, baseball fans.